Hi guys, this is Caitlin. I'm here with Laura's Path, and she is going to talk all about how she lost 120 pounds with the carnivore diet, and it's going to be so awesome. We're so excited to have you, Laura. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Caitlin. I'm really excited.
So just catch us up. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you got started with, with your, wanting to lose weight in the first place, and then how you got turned on to carnivore and all that.
I have always been heavier, probably even through like high school and college. I was raised on a standard American diet. My mom baked homemade bread every day. We had meat and potatoes. Every holiday was meat, but there was also just lots of, Midwestern foods growing up and pastas and lots of potatoes. And so when I went to college, I was kind of introduced to junk food for the first time and went a little crazy and, gained probably 30 pounds over the course of my freshman and sophomore year. And then that's kind of where I started yo-yo dieting, I guess, at that point. So I went on a diet, lost some weight, and then I was like, great, I'm done. Then I gained it all back again. And then really over most of my adult life, just lost 20 pounds, gained 30 pounds. I would lose 30 pounds, gain 40 pounds. And so I was always ending kind of every year a lot higher than I was. I don't think I ever had 2 consecutive birthdays where I was really anywhere close to the same weight. And after I graduated college, I had hit 200 pounds for the first time, and I decided I was going to go on a vegan diet. So for a full year, I just, the movie Forks Over Knives came out. It was the new health craze. There was all these movies and books. So I went on a strict vegan diet, was eating 6 times a day. I lost 50 pounds. I was exercising. I was like running every day and pretty drained. My whole life was just exercising and meal prep and eating all the time. But by the end of that, I just was feeling really drained. My hair was falling out pretty drastically. I started having a lot of skin issues and acne kind of out of nowhere and just couldn't keep up with it. And so I think there was like Christmas, I ate a big giant steak and realized I felt so much better. And then at that point, I kind of lost all my good habits and went back to the junk food diet, and slowly gained all that weight back and probably another 10 or 15 pounds beyond the 50 I had lost.
And this was where you were after,
Yeah.
is this after college or during college or?
This was after college.
Okay.
This was about 8 years ago. And then I met my husband, and I actually found a picture the other day of us when we went on our first date. And I was probably around like 220 pounds at that point. And we got married, had a baby right away, and I gained 50 pounds through that pregnancy. A lot of ice cream. But even still, I was trying to be healthy. I would start the mornings with like this big spinach fruit smoothie with all the chia seeds and everything in it that you're supposed to have. And then by the evening, I was like, forget it. I'm going to eat a pan of Rice Krispie treats.
Yeah, you're so hungry by the end of the day when you
Oh,
were
absolutely.
good all day.
Yeah. And I just was like, I'm pregnant. I'm going to eat a pint of ice cream. So after I had my daughter, I was like, okay, now it's time to get serious. And I went on a pretty strict low carb diet at that point, but it was a lot of processed foods. I did low carb tortillas, a lot of Quest bars, a lot of, you know, cauliflower pizzas, and then some meat mixed in there as well. But it was pretty ingredient heavy, or a lot of processed low carb foods at the time. And that was, my daughter's 5, so that was about 5 years ago. I lost a lot of weight that way. My husband actually at the same time found out he was diabetic, and so he lost a bunch of weight then. And kind of at the end, I got down to 170 pounds, and I was like, this is the lowest I've ever been in my life. Let's celebrate. And I remember vividly, I had a cheesesteak and French fries and a pint of ice cream that day to celebrate my weight loss goals. And kind of really never, so then great, never saw that number on the scale again, and instantly put all that weight back on. I got pregnant with my son when I was around 200 pounds. And so he's 3 now. I gained another 50, 60 pounds during that pregnancy. And I think when I went into labor with him, I was like just over 250, like 255 at that point.
Wow.
Yeah. And after I had my daughter and I was doing that strict low carb diet, my milk supply was like really struggling. And it was such a struggle for me to continue nursing her. And I was pumping and doing all these crazy schedules to increase my milk supply. And I think a lot of it was just the really restrictive diet that I was on. So, in my mind, after I had my son, I was like, well, I'm not going to deal with that stress again. I want to be able to have this go better. And so I'm just not even going to try to diet. And so I kind of spent 2 years not really worrying about it, which unfortunately just meant like eating a lot of junk. I think Chick-fil-A opened at 6:00 and they knew me because I was in line at 6:00 getting my breakfast on my way to work every morning. And it was really just poor habits that I had used as an excuse to be able to not struggle with restriction at that time. But through that too, I kind of near the end of that, my son was about ready to turn 2 and I had hit 263 pounds, which was more than I was when I went into labor with him. So that was kind of eye-opening for me. I speak at a conference for my job every year, and I had to wear these shirts. They give you shirts that you're supposed to use year after year, the company shirts. And the shirts that I had from the previous year were 2X. And in March, I realized that conference is in May and those don't fit. So I need to either order men's shirts because they don't make any bigger ones, or I have to lose weight before this conference. And so that was kind of those two factors combined, realizing kind of how heavy I was. And then also I kind of had a goal at that point. It got me a lot more motivated. And so the only thing I knew at that point was low carb. And so I kind of started again the same way with a low carb diet, and still the same thing, the processed foods. And I really had a hard time sticking to it. And I still was letting cheat meals come into play. And so pretty quickly I realized that this was not going to be sustainable for me. And around that same time, we started we heard about Sean Baker, Jordan Peterson was on Joe Rogan, and heard about Michaela and a lot of the people who had been doing carnivore. And so we had realized that every time we ate a Quest bar, it would kick us out of ketosis. And at that point, keto was full-blown popularity. So we were testing, and we would eat a Quest bar, kick us out of ketosis. And so we were like, okay, scrap the Quest bars. We would have low-carb tortillas and feel really bloated afterwards. So we scrapped those and really on our own kind of just started eliminating all the processed foods. And then once we started hearing about carnivore, that was definitely eye-opening. My husband actually jumped on board immediately. He hated vegetables and was completely on board. And I completely thought he was crazy and that he was, never gonna poop again, or something crazy like that. And so I kept eating vegetables just for a few months, and then he does most of the cooking at home. And I had eaten nothing but meat for just a week, just based on what we were cooking. And on the kind of the end of that week, I had this big giant taco salad and instantly was bloated and felt terrible and stomach cramps, and realized that the only thing different that I had eaten in that with the meat, cheese, lettuce, sour cream was the lettuce. And I was like, okay, maybe he's not so crazy at that point. And so I started doing my own research. I started listening to tons of podcasts, doing research, decided I was going to cut out a lot of everything else that I was eating, which at that point was just really vegetables and nuts, because nuts are so addicting. And so I cut those out, and I had been stalled, I think, for probably, I had lost 30, 40 pounds doing the low carb version, and I stalled for about a month and really could not break that just based on what I was eating. And instantly when I went to carnivore, I started eating more food and started losing weight a lot quicker. And so that was almost a year ago. So I started the weight loss journey a little over a year ago, and the carnivore part of it has been for almost a year now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so you just felt like you were kind of slowing down with keto wasn't working as well for you. And then when you're just with your husband's kind of influence and example, you thought, well, I'll just, and after seeing how you felt, then you just kind of cut back on the vegetables and you started seeing results faster.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it was much better because I was eating like these grilled chicken salads all the time and trying to do keto, but then also keep it lower calorie and concerned about that. And he was sitting there eating steaks in front of me every day. And so that made things easy as well because I enjoyed the food that I was eating so much more. I also still was really struggling with cravings and sticking to things when I was keto. And instantly when moving to carnivore, I just felt so much more full and satisfied. And that has made a tremendous difference in my ability to stick to it. You know, I've gone on diets before, but I've really never been able to stick to them long term or past a goal of any kind. And I think that's what's made it more sustainable for me this time, is because I'm much happier with what I'm eating and I feel so much better.
That's amazing. I mean, so you think that you'll stick with it this time just because you're satisfied more?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, you know, if you would have told me a year and a half ago that you're going to eat nothing but beef or ribeyes for the rest of your life, I would have thought you were crazy. But the main thing is just seeing how I feel and how much it's cleared up a lot of my skin issues, some digestive issues. And obviously, you know, I'm enjoying eating so much. I feel no restriction in what I'm eating, which is crazy to think that you eat such a small variety of foods and yet you're not feeling restricted.
I
But I
know
think that's,
nobody ever understands that. Like they think that it's like we're white knuckling it or something, and it's like it's so hard, and it's like no, actually, it's so much easier.
I
And
know,
but
right
you just
before this call. Yeah.
nobody's gonna believe it until they do it themselves because like I don't want. I mean, I had steak last night. I had steak for lunch. Like I don't want anything else.
I had a steak right before this, right? I just finished, the dishes are still in the sink, and Chris had cooked it for me while I was getting ready. And I said, man, this is probably the best ribeye I've ever had. Like that was a proper ribeye. How could you ever get sick of eating something so delicious and so juicy? And I'm feeling so full.
And you ate the same thing yesterday, and you didn't, but you don't get tired of it.
Absolutely. And I'm probably gonna eat the same thing. I will eat the same thing tomorrow.
Yeah,
I don't get sick of it at all.
I know. It's weird, but nobody, you have to really just try it to believe it. Um, so a little, you know, a lot of people I'm sure ask you what it's like to have your kids and what do you do with them as far as, you know, do you try to make them carnivore or what do
That's
you?
the hard, yeah, that's the hard part, and we struggle with. I know that I believe, you know, almonds have oxalates, and we learn about, as you know, the more I am in this space, I learn about the plant toxins and things, and so it's wondering, should I be giving those things to my kids, and should they be eating only meat? But I think that's something Chris and I still discuss a lot. At this point, they are, you know, they eat a very whole foods diet. They eat high protein. So they have 3 meals a day, protein, lots of chicken, pork, lots of beef. I think my daughter would eat a bunless burger patty with cheese on it, like a burger patty with cheese on it for every meal. And it's almost funny because I'm almost enforcing variety on their diet when really she would eat that for every meal. Why do I think that she needs variety when I don't think that I do? So that's kind of hard. They eat a lot of eggs, and they do eat vegetables, and they eat some fruit and some nuts. So we focus on the grains, keeping grains and sugars and seed oils out. So it's for us, it's more about the ingredients that are in their food and not so much about their macros. Like they'll have a sweet potato, just because those are things that we feel a little better about them eating. But I'm not concerned about if they're in ketosis or if they're, you know, how strict they are.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that like I'm sure you were the same as me. Like when I was growing up, I just ate, just anything. And then, I constantly had ear infections and stuff like that. So it's like, I think that they're going to be so much healthier with that approach than the way, probably you or I grew up just eating, craft dinner or, something.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
You had potatoes. I had craft dinner. So
That's the difference in like growing up in a super rural area, I guess.
well, my parents were divorced and stuff, so just we had a lot of good meals, but we also had easy meals sometimes,
Microwave stuff, yeah.
or whatever good means.
And I think that's what our kids were doing. I mean, they were pretty traditional. We've always like pushed vegetables. Like you can't eat any, if you want your macaroni, when they were younger, you have to eat your vegetables. You have to eat your vegetables. And now it's like, let's focus on protein first. Eat your protein, and then if you want to eat vegetables and fruit when you're done, you can. But when we cook a lot of their meals, it's asking them, okay, what kind of protein do you want? We grill every day, and so I will throw anything on the grill for them. There's no effort. I'm not making all these separate meals for them. They can pick that day, I want a sausage or an egg or a chicken or a steak or a burger patty, and usually they just get to pick what protein they want. And then if they want anything else after that, then they can eat vegetables or fruit, piece of cheese, and we just try to base it on that. They also don't snack, and that's not a restriction of you can't have any snacks, but we just found when we started eliminating something at 2:00, if you give them a cup of goldfish at 2:00, there's no way they were going to eat something healthy for dinner. And so as we were transitioning them over, we learned pretty quickly that if you want them to be hungry for some good protein at their meals, you can't be giving them, a bag of cookies or something in between.
Yeah.
And so they
eat those cookies about like 5:00, they're going to start having meltdowns, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And not want dinner.
Right.
So I notice you go to the gym sometimes. What is your approach with working out?
I would never in my life have thought that I would be somebody that went to the gym or looked forward to it. And I certainly am not like a crazy gym person. If I could be, fit and toned and not have to go to the gym, I would not go to the gym. But it is nice. It's kind of like a good little alone time. I don't have time to go every day. I, for a while, tried to go every morning. I have to be at work at 6:30. And so I would get up at 4, go to the gym, try to run on the treadmill for an hour, and then go to work every day. And I did that for about 2 weeks. And it was, I think, I ended up gaining 5 pounds during that time, just those couple weeks. And that was when I was in like really active weight loss where I was losing, every week. And I think my body was just so stressed from the excessive cardio and not sleeping enough and just the pressure that I was putting on it that it really kind of almost shut down and started hanging on to everything. And so as soon as I cut that out, I instantly lost all that weight again.
Yeah. I try to, because I used to be a personal trainer, and I would tell people it's probably better that you just sleep in, and they would be like, what? And people go crazy. Like, you have to push,
Yeah.
And then, so do you think that working out helped your weight loss, or was it all just the carnivore, or what?
I think I had lost 80 pounds before I stepped foot in a gym. And I think all of the fat loss has all been about the diet. I go to the gym now, I would say since, for the last few months, I go twice a week, maybe 3 times, depending on our weekend schedule. But I went this morning, I took a weightlifting class at the gym, and it's like an hour class where you kind of, every song you work out a different muscle group. And I do that on Saturdays and I do that on Wednesdays. And if we are not doing anything on a Sunday, I might go and do like a little core workout or, and just because I like to sit in the sauna. It's my excuse to go to the gym so I can sit in the sauna. But I think that the working out has helped with kind of toning. I'm feeling stronger. I can tell a difference I think I get a lot of, this is off topic, but I get a lot of questions about loose skin. About loose skin. And there are several things I think that have contributed to that not being being terrible. It's obviously there, but I think part of that's working out, just kind of building muscle to replace the space that was with fat loss. Since January, I've kind of fluctuated a little bit of weight. But I'm pretty much the same number on the scale that I was in January, but I'm a pant size smaller. So like the more that I lost, the more I think I did need to go to the gym a couple times a week, to kind of just help with body composition and toning and stuff like that.
But I think you would agree from what you just said is that it's not the very first thing people need to worry about. It's more, they need to focus on the food first.
Oh yeah. It was a solid, 6-8 months before I was going to the gym, at all. And I was like really dialed into my diet. And at that point, I think I had, like I said, I lost 80 pounds and I was like, all right, well, this skin is going to be an issue if I don't do something about it. And so that was really more what motivated me, because I thought, the longer I did it, the more my goal changed, because the more I saw how possible it was for me to lose. And so as my goals changed, I was like, then maybe I should work on being in the gym a little more. But, and that's when I had tried to go 5-6 days a week. So I'm much happier. I think I physically feel great going 2 or 3 times a week. I think the other people don't have to go. Like I was there this morning for, a couple hours by the time I dropped the kids off and did my hour class and the sauna. But that's because I don't have time to go every day. I know like Chris goes every day because he's home with the kids and he can go and he's in and out in 45 minutes. He drops the kids off, does a 20-minute workout, 20-minute sauna, and he's out. And I think there's two different ways that you could do it and both be successful, but it doesn't need to be your main priority at all.
They have the childcare there at the gym, I guess.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, and they love it. They really love going too, which helps. And I'll coordinate when I go with some other mom friends of mine. And so they get to run around the childcare and play with their friends. And then, my friend and I take a class together.
That's great. I mean, my sister goes basically, I think, just for the childcare. So
that's what I mean. It's nice too, if Chris needs a break and I need a break, we all just take the kids to the gym. They burn a bunch of energy, and then I get to have a little me time, and we all burn a little energy.
I mean, of course, you look amazing and everything, and it's wonderful. But I mean, not but and is that the thing that you started out with only aesthetic goals? Or, I mean, was it what really kept you going in the beginning? I mean, I feel like there's especially in the nutritional kind of community, it's like weight loss is bad, aesthetic goals are empty, and
right.
I mean, I can see both sides of it because I've done both. But so what do you think about that idea?
It's hard too. I know a lot of people who talk about like finding your why. I know that that's kind of a cliche term. I mean, I think everybody wants to be healthy for their family, for their kids, for themselves, but sometimes that's just not really enough to keep you motivated in some ways. And a lot of what it was aesthetically. I knew I had to talk at this conference in front of all these people, and I was going to be looking like a crazy sauce. Like my shirt was going to be insanely too small. And I always used to complain at work because the shirts that they give to women are always this like tapered frame. And I was like, I'm not a tapered girl. I don't need tapered. I would order the men's shirts because they were much more boxy fit. And I kind of was just tired of being uncomfortable. I travel a lot for my job, and being on an airplane and lugging your bag and getting a car and trying to sit on an airplane, a couple times a month was just really exhausting. It was so exhausting. Around that same time too, I had knee surgery. I had a torn meniscus and my knee was just completely giving out. I think because of a lot of it was just because of my weight. And it's really exhausting being as heavy as I was. And it's hard to get started that way, which is why I think back to your point about the gym, like if you're at that size, there was no way I was going to the gym. If I thought I had to go to the gym every day to lose weight, I was just too tired. I couldn't do it. And especially like I know people I travel with who like go to the gym at the hotel every day. I'm like, I'm exhausted. That's a lot of work. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, traveling is a whole nother beast of and energy. And I mean, you know, um, that's great. That's really good information. That I mean, I feel like both ways. I used to be 240 pounds at one point after college, and I remember waiting tables, and it was just like the most physically demanding thing. But the other kids that were also my age were like running around in circles, and because I was so heavy, it was so hard on me. And so I know both ways. I know what it's like to be thin. I know what it's like to be heavy. And I think sometimes when those people are talking like that, maybe they haven't been really heavy. They don't know what it's like. But it's not just from a looks thing. It's like you actually feel bad,
We live in Phoenix. It's really hot here. And I, in the summertime, refuse to wear shorts. I, wore these like, maybe I would wear a capri if it was below my knees. I would refuse to wear anything sleeveless. Even short sleeves stressed me out. Like I like 3/4 lengths, and it's 120 degrees here in the summers. And I'm wearing jeans or, long pants and a 3/4 length shirt. And I was miserable all the time. I was always hot and worried if I was going to be sweating. And it's just, sometimes you push that out of your head, and I did for a lot of years and just didn't let it be something I was conscious about. But kind of all of those things I think piled into one. And people ask a lot, like, how do you get motivated? You kind of just have to be ready. At some point you will hit your breaking point and you will be ready to take this seriously. And I think I finally hit that point.
And yeah, I mean, I did too, kind of, because I tried basically everything. And then when my sister was like, why don't you just try this carnivore? I was like, fine, whatever, I'll do it. So I notice you eat like one meal a day most of the time. How does that work? And how does the fasting feel for you and that kind of thing?
I really like it honestly, for convenience. Dinner's crazy around here. I don't eat dinner, but it's nice because with kids, like we sit down at the table and I eat a meal with them, but I don't have to eat. And to try to cook another meal a day, like it's, like setting your meat out once, cooking it, cleaning, doing all that stuff once for us is really nice. And I still sit with, the kids when they're eating, even if I'm not going to eat. But a lot of it just was learning about fasting. The more I read like Jason Fung's stuff about autography, I think that's another part of the skin that's helped, is a lot of the fasting that I've done. And I really just found that when I was eating a big meal for lunch, I kind of for a while did like a 2 meal a day, and I was looking at a eating window between like 10 and 2. I would get busy at work and not eat till 11 or 12. And then I just was never hungry enough to eat anything else for dinner. And it's another one of those things where I would stall. Every time I stalled on this journey, you kind of assess what you're doing, and then I would make a change. And a stall for me is not a week or two. It's, when you hit a longer period of time, it's just saying like, okay, what am I doing and what could I change? And so that was part of it. So I decided to try 1 meal a day for a while, and really just ended up liking it so much from the convenience aspect of it. I go to bed really early, and so I don't want to come home and eat a big steak at 5 o'clock and then be in bed, a few hours later.
Oh yeah, because you have to get up early. And,
yeah.
And I notice if I eat late, it never feels very good. It's like if I eat at 5 or something, it's fine. But if I eat at 7 or 8, then it's like coming up, and then like and I mean, just fasting, I know I've fasted sometimes, and it makes me feel very like, it makes me reminisce, or in a bad way, about all the dieting from all the low fat dieting that I did. And it sometimes brings up a lot of emotional baggage. So it doesn't do that for you?
I don't think so, because I think my tendency always was just to overeat. Like I never forced restriction on myself, or that hasn't been a struggle that I've dealt with. I've always just struggled with overeating all the time. I would eat breakfast at 6. I would eat a snack at 9. I'd be talking by 9:30 about what are we getting for lunch. I would go get a snack at 2 and then eat dinner and then have dessert later. So for me, it almost takes away a lot of those tendencies because somebody posted something that said, like, if I eat once a day, if I eat twice, then I'm eating 3 times, then I'm eating 4 times. And that's how I am. The minute I put something in my mouth outside of that meal for no reason, because I just am cooking the kids dinner and I eat a piece of cheese, that one thing turns into I grab something else and then I grab something else. And then I end up eating something that I don't physically need, but it's more emotional for me. And I think, so it's almost the opposite of you, where, you're wanting to eat more often to not deal with that. But for me, mentally, I just need to get away from those overeating, mindless eating tendencies that I've always been triggered by.
Yeah. And I mean, we're so set in that like 3 meals a day, just because, not even asking yourself, are you actually hungry? Just,
right.
This is the time we eat. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, not eating breakfast is really convenient when you're trying to like get up in the morning and get out the door. Like, who has time for breakfast? A friend of mine started Carnivore recently and they were like, what do I do with all this free time in the mornings? I've been getting to work like 30 minutes earlier every day because I'm not trying to meal prep and cook cook myself breakfast.
You're trying to make a kale smoothie or something.
Right. And then clean all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, who can eat at like 5 o'clock in the morning anyway? Like, it's
right.
I mean, it's easy to eat like sugar then, but not like a steak.
Right.
So what do you ever get tired of meat? I mean, we kind of talked about this already, but do you ever just say, like, a lot of people have told me that they, even in the beginning of carnivore, that they got sick of eating meat at some point. Did that ever happen to you?
No, I think if I'm trying to eat other things besides beef, I definitely always regret it. I'll have, if I just want a good piece of steak, and then even if I try to have like chicken, or I feel like I'm supposed to mix it up, and I'll have some shrimp or some fish, and by the end of it, I'm like, man, I just would have rather had a steak. There's something about like chewing a steak just that makes me feel satisfied, that it makes it, you don't. I almost just regret when I try to force myself to have variety. Somebody had mentioned eggs, like, do I eat eggs? And I was like, yeah, I eat eggs, but every time I eat eggs, I just feel like I haven't like actually eaten anything because they're so easy to eat. And I love eggs, but I'm more wanting to just like feel satisfied,
It's more like eggs are kind of like a snack. Like, I know sometimes I'll eat eggs if I know I'm gonna eat like a early lunch or something. I'll have like a couple, and then they're like, okay, well, I know I'll still be hungry for lunch.
I like eggs as like a side dish. It's sometimes, I like to dip my steak in an egg now. Cause like, what do you dip in a running egg? I like to dip my steak in an egg or have it more on the side.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people do have egg sensitivities and stuff. So it's a good idea to maybe not eat eggs for a little bit and decide if that's something affecting you.
Right.
Yeah. And so something else. Are you worried at all about nutritional deficiencies? I mean, everybody always asks me that, like, I'm going to die tomorrow. But nobody ever asked me that when I was eating like lean cuisines,
Right. I definitely have people kind of force that on me a little bit, or be concerned about my nutritional needs. But again, I used to we're used to go get our, Sonic Blizzards or whatever they are in the afternoons. They're the same people that was like going to eat junk food with me every day. So I don't, and mainly just because of the research that we've done and kind of realizing not only how good I feel, but also just the more that I learn about beef in general and how complex it is and how nutrient dense it is. I really believe the science behind the fact that you really can't absorb any nutrition out of spinach. And the fact that I spent all these years, drinking spinach smoothies and trying to be healthy that way, but realizing that's probably why my hair was falling out, because I had a massive, deficiency, and my body was like starving for nutrients at that point. And I think if I felt at all off or bad, I would address it and look into it and get some things tested. But at this point, I'm confident in the quality of the meat that I'm eating. And know just based on the results. Like, I feel like I've spent times of nutrient deficient in my life before, and I know what that feels like in some ways.
Yeah.
And because I feel so amazing, that's a lot of what makes me not worry about it.
Well, and I think also, I'm sure people have told you, I mean, your skin is like shining and your eyes are
My
bright.
window's bright.
But,
Thanks.
I mean, people have said that to me. Like, people have said, like, you look younger than you did, 6 months ago or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I think so too. It's just the meat. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean,
I definitely get that a lot, like posting before and after pictures. People mention that I look like I've, gotten younger or something, like on my birthday and things like that.
I mean, yeah, I go without makeup a lot of the time because I just don't feel like it's that necessary as much as I used to, and it's
Yeah.
like, but I'm older than I used to be, but
Right.
some things changed, so it's
I
crazy.
I dye my hair now, which I didn't before, but even with hair dye that I do myself, and my hair is much healthier now than it ever was before, even when it was completely untouched before. And I, have all these crazy baby hairs just from all my new hair growing in,
I have
for a while.
like
Yeah.
over here, it's growing like
Yeah.
under, and it's crazy.
I
It's like,
have like these, horns that come out, when before, I had like some bald patches that I was getting. If you look at pictures of in a ponytail from before, you can see my scalp through. That's why I started dyeing my hair, because I had slightly darker hair, and when I had my hair pulled back, you could see the skin beneath it. And I thought, well, if I'm blonder, then you won't be able to tell as much, then my hair's all falling out.
wow.
And so that's been a really exciting discovery now. I think just that was the difference between, for me, being keto. My hair started falling out again just, a year and a half ago, when we started this, because I think I just was using all those products and I still didn't have a lot of protein. And it wasn't until switching to full carnivore and really upping that protein, that I think my hormones balanced out quite a bit and my hair started coming back. And that's finally when my skin started clearing up.
And I mean, on keto, they make you so afraid of the protein. It's like,
Right.
I mean, I saw you posting about your peanut butter. Like, I would just sit there and eat like jars of peanut butter. It's like, well, I'm so afraid of messing up my macros that
Right.
it's like,
I
so,
used to be in all those keto groups, and people post and they're like, all I have left for the day is fat. What should I eat? And people are suggesting to them to like eat a bunch of cream cheese, or, just eat straight butter. That's my favorite. I'm like, it's so hard I just had to get out of all that, because it's just, you want to kind of help people, but in some ways it just comes across wrong when you're trying to tell them like, that's probably not the best idea. And you don't need to worry about going over this ridiculously low protein macro to begin with.
well, I mean, on that note, do you count anything anymore?
I don't. And I like jokingly pulled up the macros for 2 pounds of ribeye once, just because people kept asking. And I think it was somewhere around like 2,400 calories. Um, in the last, out of nowhere, I've eaten 2 pounds of beef once a day, every day, mostly ribeyes. And I think that's like over, I have it written down, but it's over, 200 grams of protein just in that alone, which is really crazy if you think about, just being a female on, and 140 pounds. That's like way more protein than anybody should tell you that you ever need. And for a while, I believed that, and I thought I need to cut back. I need to try to make changes. And that's kind of where I started eating cheese out of nowhere, just because I thought, well, this is not as much protein. And that's where earlier this year, I really had some fluctuations in my weight, because I was feeling all this pressure to not eat as much protein, or now that I'm more maintenance, like I need to add more variety in, like everybody else is doing. And I felt terrible, and I was not, my weight kept fluctuating. I'd gained a few pounds back. And so I kind of just was like, forget it. 2 pounds of beef was working. I'm just going to stick to that. And have been doing that since. And I would say, though, out of nowhere, like I trailed off, I just been getting a lot more full lately. And so I've cut back from 2 pounds to just, I'll cook myself 2 pounds of steak and I'll finish, 2/3 of it and kind of be getting full. So I just have started cooking myself a little less to see how I feel. And I've been feeling great. This morning I was at the gym. I text Chris. I was like, man, I'm really hungry. Can you pull the steak out of the fridge and set it out for me? Because I'm getting actually a lot hungrier by the time it's my meal time. And sometimes maybe I was just eating because it was a meal time. So I feel like now that I'm eating a little less, I'm letting my body really cycle through it and not overeating, I guess. I think that's always been my issue in the past. And even now, I could easily overeat. I know we talked about that before. I could easily eat 5 pounds of beef a day and not think anything about it if I spread it out over the course of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm about the same. I mean, I eat about 2 pounds, but it's like in 2 meals, and
Yeah.
it seems okay. But if I was to eat, if I was gonna, but I think, especially at first, when you're first starting carnivore, I think you really should just eat as much as you can because
100%.
I feel like if you don't, even eating 3 meals or whatever, I feel like people try to fast too soon, and also they are so worried about how much they're eating because that's just like our program, especially as women. So they're just worried. But the problem is, if you don't just eat enough, then you're going to start looking for chocolate or cookies or whatever because you're going to be like, oh, well, like you just said, feeling bad that you're eating too much protein or whatever. It's
Right.
like, I really had to get over that. And my sister and my friend Vivica from Nourish Caveman, she was kind of my coach through this whole thing. And she would just say, just eat, just let go of that old programming. And so it was hard at first, but I think if I hadn't have had that permission, then I would have been still going back for the cheats, the chocolate, Halo Top or whatever crap thing, like a bar of Lily's or, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I was so addicted to the sweeteners, and even, the non-caloric sweeteners that I was just always looking for that. And I haven't had that in 7 months. So it was pretty amazing. Was that hard for you, the sweeteners?
Yeah, definitely. I think what is funny is when I cut them out completely for a period of time, and then I think like I had something with erythritol in it, like a dessert with erythritol in it, my stomach bloated up. I looked like I was 6 months pregnant. Like it was like peanut butter and chocolate, something with erythritol, and my stomach swelled up, felt super hard. I looked like I was really pregnant, and it took a good 2 days for that to like completely deflate. And it took even longer for me to start feeling good again with that digestive system. And so that made it a lot easier to kind of give it up. It's funny because when you're having something every day, you don't realize how it's affecting you. That's how I was with the vegetables, and that's how I was with cheese. You just pass this off as this is how I feel normal. But if you can go for a period of time without it, and then try it, if you have it again, you're going to realize how terrible it makes you feel. I think what you said too is so true. People in the beginning try to be so concerned about how much weight am I going to lose in the first week, and how, and not just getting off of all the junk that you were eating. That's probably one of the number one things I tell people too, is just give yourself permission to eat as much meat as you want when you want. So you're not sitting on the couch and next thing you know, you're eating your kids' lunchbox snacks that are in the pantry. Instead, make yourself some meat, or, I don't eat pork rinds just because they just trigger me to want a snack, and then I'm eating pork rinds and cheese. But if pork rinds is going to keep you from eating ice cream in the beginning, eat some pork rinds. If you need to cook an extra meal that day, then do it. If that's what's going to help you not eat, literally crackers, whatever I could find in the pantry is what usually people are just grabbing whatever's in their house.
And why do you think that? I mean, these are such good points. And why do you think that people will? Why do you think that people will lose weight even when they're still eating? I mean, I probably ate 1,500 calories when I was doing keto sometimes, and so it's like, but now I'm eating like 2,500 or something.
Right.
And I've lost weight when on keto, I couldn't lose 1 pound, you know?
It is crazy to think about, and that's where I think a lot of it is the debloating. I think a lot of us hold water weight, a lot of bloat. I just instantly slimmed with, when I cut out all the vegetables and when I cut out any kind of processed foods. People carry that stuff and they don't even realize it. You don't have to look bloated to be like retaining all of this junk. Like literally, you're full of fiber in your, like once that's empty, you realize how much lighter you feel without all those vegetables in your system. And I think that's part of it. Like everything works so much more efficiently.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think it's also the food sensitivities, like we're sensitive to all these things.
Yeah.
And then we're blowing up with water because our body's trying to protect us from
Right.
these foods that are causing a lot of inflammation. So, and people don't, because that's not the paradigm we grew up in of we grew up in, it's calories in, calories out. And so,
Right.
um,
Which is why even still, I was going to the gym every day because I thought like I'm stalled. I need to go to the gym and burn a bunch of calories on the treadmill so that I can, make up for this. But I'm sure there's an element to that. That's one of those things that I don't really know all the answers to. But all I know is that when I try to restrict myself, then I end up stalling or gaining weight. And when I'm just like eating as much meat as I need to, 2 pounds of beef a day, and not worrying about portions, it's when I feel the best. And when I've really never had as much of a struggle with stalling at that point.
and I mean, I noticed too, even though like lately I'm not losing as fast as I was the first month or whatever, but I feel like my body's still changing and my clothes are still fitting better and things like that. Have you noticed that too?
Oh yeah, big time. And I take a lot of pictures, just really kind of, which I'm glad I did in the beginning because it was really, I had planned to show nobody ever, ever. And yet I'm really glad I have that documentation. But I would say probably once a week, I just take pictures because I like to just be able to compare. And just, I keep those to slide back through and I'll look back through and see like how my stomach is changing or how my arms are changing. And really, like I said, from January until now, I weigh the same, but I look very different. I think my skin is completely tightened up quite a bit. My arms, everything is just getting a lot more narrow, I guess. It makes the pictures really help because you can't see it when you're doing it every day. And you could go back and look at, the difference over the few months. Since I think October, I had hit 100 pounds. So since October, I've only lost 20 pounds. And I compare the pictures from October to today, and it's crazy. It looks like way more than 20 pounds, but it's just how my body's changed over that time.
That's awesome. So what's next for you? Like when's your book coming out?
This has all been really fun and kind of unexpected. A couple of people saw, I just had posted a picture when I hit 120 pounds and was really excited, and kind of out of nowhere had some people start sharing that. And it's been fun for me to talk about and to help people. I think that the challenges that I have had with food are something that a lot of people deal with. And so I don't know. Who knows? It's been really fun though. Just kind of a fun hobby.
Oh yeah. Next year you'll quit your job and stuff.
That's how it worked for you, right? You just went from a hobby to full-blown writing books and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, it was a little different in that I had a huge health breakdown, so I was looking for a way to stay home and have less stress to try to figure out how to heal myself backwards. So, but yeah, staying home and sleeping in, really, I think that's my whole, that's a whole cure.
Motivation.
Just sleeping in changed my life.
Yeah.
So tell everybody, like, where can they find your social media and stuff, and where if they want to, follow you and learn more about your story?
I am on Instagram, and it's just my name with my middle initial, so Laura East Bath. And I post pictures of steak and me holding steak, and sometimes maybe a picture of the kids and the family. But that's a lot of it. And it's, I usually, people can message me if they have questions. I enjoy kind of trying to help diagnose stuff. People message and just say, like, where do I start on carnivore? Like, I'm not going to answer that message, but be specific. Like, here's what I'm doing. Here's my question. You can Google what is carnivore.
Yeah. And like, don't diagnose people's health.
Medical. Oh no. That's what people message about medication. I'm like, you're going to have to talk to your doctor about that, even though I necessarily don't think doctors know everything about medication, but that's not my place to say. You got to figure that out.
They know a lot more about medication than they do about nutrition. So
yeah.
So ask them about that, but not me. And well, it's been so awesome to hang out with you today, Laura, and hopefully we can hang out a lot more in real life in the future.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Getting to know you, and I'll put this up soon. And all right, thanks so much again.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.